The morning sun rose softly over the city of Brooksville, painting gold streaks across the tall glass buildings and stirring life into the streets. Emma Carter hurried down the cracked pavement, clutching her brown handbag against her chest as she ran toward the city registry office. Her blonde hair was tied back messily, her blue scrub still half wrinkled from a long night shift at the hospital. "I can't believe I'm late again," she muttered under her breath, nearly bumping into an old man carrying flowers. She stopped, apologized quickly, and dashed through the double doors of the registry building. Inside, the long lines and the dull hum of printers filled the air. Emma looked around nervously. Today wasn't about romance or dreams, it was paperwork. She had been applying for a medical aid loan under her deceased father's name to settle old hospital debts. The process required a legal identity verification and signature confirmation, something that had already been delayed twice. Meanwhile, in the opposite corner of the same building, Ethan Blake walked in wearing a tailored navy suit, sunglasses, and a look that screamed money and control. His driver waited outside while he handled what he thought would be a quick business formality, a partnership registration for his tech company's international expansion. Ethan didn't like wasting time, especially not in government offices filled with waiting numbers and fluorescent lights. "Good morning, sir," the registrar greeted him. "Let's make this fast, please," Ethan replied, checking his watch. "I have a meeting in 30 minutes. Across the hall, Emma fumbled through her bag, pulling out a crumpled letter. "Loan verification form for Carter Medical," she told the clerk at her counter. "It's urgent. My ID number is 458723. The clerk, an older woman with glasses, smiled kindly. "Take this form and wait for your name to be called, dear." Ethan, meanwhile, was directed to another counter, where a young intern handled his documents nervously. "Just sign here and here, Mr. Blake. We'll attach the identification and update the record." Emma sat down, tapping her foot anxiously. Beside her, a child cried, and a couple argued about whose turn it was in line. She sighed, wishing she were anywhere else. Her stomach rumbled, she hadn't eaten since last night. Then came the moment that changed both of their lives. "Emma Carter, counter 6. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked over. At the same time, Ethan Blake's assistant called out, "Mr. Blake, counter 6, they're ready for your signature." 2 people. 1 counter. 1 shared number. They both arrived at the desk simultaneously, standing side by side. The clerk, slightly overwhelmed, assumed they were together. "Ah, the couple for registration," she said brightly. Emma blinked. "Couple? No, I'm just here for..." Ethan interrupted, irritated. "Can we just finish this? I've got a flight soon." The clerk smiled. "Of course, sir. Just sign here, both of you. The system will merge the files automatically. It's just confirmation for joint verification." "Joint what?" Emma frowned, confused. "Signature verification," the clerk said. "You requested combined record processing." Emma looked at Ethan, who rolled his eyes impatiently. "Fine. Let's just get this done," he said. Against her better judgment, Emma signed. Ethan did too. The clerk typed a few things into her computer and hit enter. The system beeped. "Congratulations," she said cheerfully. "You're now officially married under state record." "What?" they both shouted in unison. Heads turned. People in the waiting area began whispering. "There must be a mistake," Emma said, her voice trembling. "I came here for a loan document, not a husband." Ethan looked like he'd been slapped. "And I came to register a business, not a bride." The clerk frowned, staring at her monitor. Oh dear. "It appears your digital forms were linked by error. The system registered both entries as a marriage filing." "What do you mean linked by error?" "Fix it," Ethan demanded, slamming his palm on the counter. The woman adjusted her glasses nervously. "I'm afraid I can't just delete it." Once a marriage certificate is issued, it requires legal annulment or a 30-day cohabitation verification for retraction. Emma gasped. 30 days? That's insane. I'm not living with anyone, Ethan snapped. The clerk sighed helplessly. Sir, miss, I understand, but the system has already sent your details to the National Registry. Any change before 30 days will flag both of your records as fraudulent applications. Emma's voice shook. So, we're legally married? Yes, the clerk said softly. Temporarily, unless you both annul it after 30 days. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. This can't be happening. Emma turned to him, her eyes wide. This is your fault. You rushed everything. My fault? Ethan pointed at her. You signed without reading. I was following instructions. Exactly. Without thinking. The argument drew more stares. A security guard approached, clearing his throat. Please, keep it down. Ethan groaned, pinching the bridge of his nose. Fine. Let's just fix this quietly. Emma crossed her arms. Oh sure, Mr. Fancy Suit. You think you can just wave your money and fix everything? Ethan glared. I can fix a broken contract, not a broken system. The clerk handed them both printed documents. Here are your copies. Your marriage certificate, reference ID, and annulment instructions. Please contact the family court if you wish to dissolve it after the mandatory period. Emma stared at the paper in disbelief. Her name and his were printed neatly together. Ethan James Blake and Emma Grace Carter. Date of marriage, August 12th. She looked up, her heart racing. This is ridiculous. I don't even know this man. Ethan muttered, trust me, I'm not thrilled either. Good, she snapped. Great, he shot back. The clerk coughed awkwardly. You'll need to provide a joint address within 48 hours for system validation. Joint address, they both repeated. Yes, the clerk said gently. You must confirm cohabitation to validate your temporary union. Emma's jaw dropped. You're saying I have to live with him? Just until the annulment process begins, the clerk replied. Ethan looked horrified. You expect me to live with a stranger? Emma threw her hands up. You think I want to live with you? You're arrogant and rude. And you're reckless. Ethan snapped. The guard stepped closer again, giving them a warning look. Ethan sighed heavily. Fine. Let's just talk outside. They walked out of the building, tension thick between them. On the steps, the city buzzed with noise, cars honking, people laughing, but they stood still, two strangers tied by the weirdest twist of fate. Emma folded her arms tightly. So, what do we do now? Ethan rubbed his temples. I'll have my lawyer handle it. Give me your number. She hesitated. Why? Because we have to coordinate the paperwork. Don't worry, Miss Carter, I'm not asking you on a date. Good, she said, scribbling her number on the corner of her certificate. And don't Miss Carter me. It's Mrs. Blake now, at least according to that cursed paper. He smirked. Don't remind me. A sudden breeze blew through, carrying her hair across her face. Ethan watched her for a second, something about her calm frustration amused him. She wasn't like the women he was used to. Where do you live? He asked. In a shared apartment near the hospital, she replied. And no, I'm not moving into your mansion. He smirked again. Good, because I wasn't offering. Then we have a problem, she said. They want a joint address. Ethan stared at the paper in his hand. Fine. You can stay in the guest house at my place. Just until my lawyer clears this up. Emma frowned. You expect me to trust a man I met 2 hours ago? Do you have another option? Her silence was the answer. She didn't. Ethan took off his sunglasses, revealing deep gray eyes. Look, I don't like this any more than you do. But we can either fight the system or play along until we fix it. She hesitated, then sighed. All right. 30 days. Then we're done. Agreed. They shook hands, firmly, reluctantly, unaware that one handshake had just sealed more than a legal glitch. As Ethan's black car pulled up beside the curb, Emma muttered, "This better not ruin my life." Ethan gave her a sideways glance. "Trust me, Mrs. Blake, I'm more worried about it ruining mine." She scowled at him, but deep down, a strange feeling settled in her chest. Maybe it was disbelief. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe, just maybe, it was fate whispering the beginning of something neither of them could control. And as they drove away, two strangers bound by a system error, the city seemed to smile knowingly, because sometimes, love begins with the biggest mistake of all. The black sedan rolled to a slow stop in front of an elegant iron gate guarded by tall palm trees and trimmed hedges. A massive white mansion sat at the end of the driveway, glimmering beneath the afternoon sun. Emma stared at it through the car window, her mouth slightly open. She'd never seen anything like it. "This is your house?" she finally asked, her voice carrying a mix of awe and disbelief. Ethan didn't look at her. "It's one of them." "One of them," she repeated, her brows shooting up. "How many do you have?" He glanced briefly at her, smirking. "Enough to make the tax office nervous." Emma frowned and crossed her arms. "You must be fun at parties." "I don't go to parties," he said simply. "Of course you don't." She rolled her eyes. The car came to a complete stop. The driver hurried out to open the door, but Emma waved him off. "I can open my own door, thanks." She stepped out, taking in the mansion's wide marble steps, glass walls, and sculpted fountain that looked like it cost more than her entire apartment building. Ethan motioned toward the house. "Let's get this over with." As they walked in, the double doors opened automatically. A tall woman in her 40s, elegant, graceful, and intimidating, appeared in the entryway. "Welcome home, sir," she greeted warmly. Then her eyes fell on Emma. "And this must be Mrs. Blake?" Emma froze. "Oh, no, no. I'm not really." "Yes," Ethan interrupted quickly, glaring at the housekeeper. "This is Mrs. Blake." "Temporarily." The woman smiled politely. "I see. I'm Mrs. Dyer, the head housekeeper." "Your room is ready, ma'am." "My room?" Emma asked, startled. Ethan took off his jacket. "You'll be staying in the guest house across the garden. It's separate from the main building." "Separate?" "Yes. That way, we both survive the next 30 days. Emma frowned. "I don't need your guest house. I can find somewhere else." But as she ended the call and looked around the luxurious guest house, a quiet unease settled inside her. She wasn't afraid of him exactly, but something about Ethan Blake made her nervous. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, like he owned the world. Or maybe it was because she knew, deep down, that his world and hers could never mix. Meanwhile, inside the main mansion, Ethan stood in his home office, staring out at the city lights through the glass wall. His assistant, Tom, was on the phone. "Yes, sir," Tom said nervously. "I've confirmed it. The registry system did merge your file. You are legally married to Emma Carter." Ethan rubbed his temple. "And the fix?" "The legal team says annulment requires cohabitation verification. If you separate early, it'll raise flags about identity fraud." "Unbelievable," Ethan muttered. "All because of a computer glitch." Tom hesitated. "Sir, there's something else. The press already got wind of it. They think it's a secret marriage." Ethan spun around. "What?" "Yes, sir. They're calling it the billionaire's secret bride." Ethan groaned. "I need this week to get worse. Should I release a statement?" "No. The more we deny it, the more they'll talk. Let it die quietly." He ended the call, pacing the room. Somewhere in the garden, he could see lights glowing from the guest house. She was there, the woman he accidentally married. A nurse, not a model or an heiress. A woman who argued with him like she wasn't intimidated. Something about that bothered him and intrigued him. By dinner time, Emma cautiously walked into the main house. The dining room looked like a museum, long table, crystal chandelier, golden plates. Ethan sat at one end, typing on his laptop. "Sit anywhere," he said without looking up. "Thanks," she replied dryly, taking a seat halfway down the table. Mrs. Dyer served roasted chicken, vegetables, and wine. The silence between them was heavy until Emma finally broke it. "So, you're just going to pretend none of this happened?" Ethan glanced up. "What do you want me to do? Throw a wedding party?" She shot him a glare. "You could at least act human." "I am. This is me being calm." "Calm? You yelled at the registry clerk like she stole your wallet." He put down his fork. "Look, miss, sorry, Mrs. Blake. I don't handle chaos well. My company's worth billions, and one scandal could destroy it. So, yes, I'm keeping my cool." She smirked. "Oh, poor billionaire. Must be hard balancing all that money." He frowned. "You think this is funny? Honestly?" She leaned forward slightly. "A little." For the first time, Ethan almost smiled. "You're impossible. And you're unbearable." Mrs. Dyer cleared her throat softly. "Dessert?" They both answered at the same time, no. Then glanced at each other, reluctantly amused. Later that night, Emma returned to the guest house. She walked out onto the balcony, the night breeze brushing against her skin. Across the yard, she could see Ethan's silhouette in his study, still working under a warm lamp. For a brief moment, she wondered what kind of man spent every night alone in such a big house. Her phone buzzed again, a message from the registry office. "Cohabitation verification visit scheduled, Friday 10 a.m. Emma groaned aloud. "Great. Now government officials are coming to inspect our fake marriage." She texted Ethan. "Emma, we have a verification visit Friday. They're checking if we live together." Ethan, understood. "We'll manage it." "Emma, we need to act like a couple." Ethan, "We'll act." "Emma, you're terrible at acting." Ethan, "You're terrible at texting." She rolled her eyes, tossing her phone on the couch. What have I gotten myself into? The next morning, Emma woke to a loud knock on her door. She opened it to find Ethan holding 2 coffee cups. "Morning," he said. She blinked. "You drink coffee?" "No, I just brought you one so you wouldn't accuse me of being rude again." She took it hesitantly. "Thanks. I guess. Mrs. Dyer mentioned the inspector will want photos of us together around the house. So, let's take some." "What, like honeymoon pictures?" "Something like that." She sighed. "Fine. Let's just get it done." They spent the next hour awkwardly posing around the mansion, on the couch, in the garden, beside the fountain. "Smile," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "I am smiling." Emma snapped. "You look like you're in pain." "That's because I am." Mrs. Dyer chuckled quietly as she took the photos. "You two will either kill each other or fall in love. There's no middle ground." Emma turned red. "We're not." Ethan interrupted smoothly, "Don't give her ideas." Later that afternoon, Ethan received a call from his lawyer confirming that the annulment could proceed as planned after the 30 days, if they maintained proper cohabitation records. Relief washed over him. But that night, while Emma sat outside watching the stars, Ethan found himself walking to the guest house without really knowing why. He stopped a few feet away, watching her in silence. She noticed him and smiled faintly. "Can't sleep?" "Too much work," he said. "Or too much thinking?" she asked softly. He hesitated. "Maybe both." They stood there quietly, the sound of crickets filling the air. You know, Emma said after a while, maybe this mistake happened for a reason. Ethan raised an eyebrow. What reason? She shrugged. Maybe life's telling you to stop living like a robot. He almost laughed. And what's life telling you? That I need to stop being afraid of chaos. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything fell silent. The air between them felt different, heavy, fragile, uncertain. Ethan broke the gaze first. Don't read too much into this, Mrs. Blake. Emma smirked. Trust me, Mr. Blake. I'm not planning to. But as he turned to walk away, her heart betrayed her with a tiny, uninvited flutter. And in that quiet night, under the moonlight reflecting off the pool, both of them realized that 30 days might be long enough for a mistake to become something else entirely. Morning sunlight spilled through the wide kitchen windows of Ethan's mansion. Emma stood barefoot in front of the enormous stainless steel fridge, squinting at the dozens of labeled containers. Who needs 5 kinds of milk, she mumbled. Almond, oat, soy, coconut, regular. Just pick one, people. She finally poured a cup of plain milk and set a pan on the stove. Within minutes, the smell of frying eggs filled the air. It was the first time the kitchen had been used without staff in years. Ethan walked in wearing his usual crisp shirt and dark trousers, earbuds in, eyes glued to his phone. The clatter of the spatula made him look up. What are you doing? Cooking. What does it look like? He frowned. We have chefs for that. Well, I'm human. I cook my own breakfast. She flipped an egg. You want some? I don't eat fried food. Right. Of course you don't. He set his phone on the counter. You can't just walk in here, Anne. It's our kitchen for the month, she cut in, turning to face him. You don't own the air I breathe, Mr. Blake. He blinked, surprised by her boldness. I never said. Good. Then you won't mind if I use your fancy stove. He sighed and sat at the island. You're impossible. And you're predictable. Despite himself, Ethan almost smiled. Watching her move confidently around his immaculate kitchen felt different. The house, usually cold and silent, suddenly seemed alive. Mrs. Dyer entered quietly, carrying folders. Sir, your 9 o'clock meeting is online in 10 minutes. Thank you, he said. She turned to Emma. Mrs. Blake, I must say, it smells wonderful. Emma grinned. Finally, someone with taste. After breakfast, Emma decided to explore the property. She wandered past manicured gardens, through the art-filled hallway, and into the glass-roofed atrium. Everywhere she looked, perfection. Yet it all felt sterile, like a museum. When she returned, she found Ethan on a video call in his office. He looked every inch the billionaire, focused, commanding. But when he noticed her reflection in the glass wall, his expression flickered. Gentlemen, we'll continue this later, he said, ending the call. Lost again? Just admiring your obsession with gray furniture. It's called minimalism. It's called lonely, she said softly. The words caught him off guard. No one had ever said that to him before. Later that day, Emma received a message from the hospital, urgent double shift available. She sighed. I need to work tonight. Ethan looked up from his laptop. You're still working? I thought this month was about fixing the paperwork. Bills don't stop because I'm accidentally married to you. He hesitated. Do you need money? Her eyes flashed. Don't you dare pity me. I earn my own way. He raised his hands. I didn't mean it like that. Sure you didn't. She grabbed her bag and left. For hours, Ethan sat restless. He couldn't focus on spreadsheets, his mind kept replaying her words. Lonely. Maybe she wasn't entirely wrong. That night, the storm came without warning. Wind lashed against the windows, thunder rolled over the city. Emma trudged back up the driveway soaked to the bone, exhausted after 12 hours at the hospital. Ethan met her at the door. "You should have called the driver." "I can walk." "You're drenched." "Rain doesn't kill, Mr. Blake." He handed her a towel anyway. "Dry off before you catch a cold." She took it silently, surprised by the hint of concern. While she showered, he reheated soup, an action that shocked even himself. When she came downstairs in borrowed pajamas, he slid the bowl across the counter. "I didn't poison it," he said. She smiled faintly. "Thanks. Didn't know you could use a microwave." They sat together, listening to the rain drum against the glass. "Why do you work so hard?" he asked quietly. "Because I have to. My dad died owing hospital bills. I promised I'd pay them off and help other families avoid what we went through." He nodded slowly. "I respect that. What about you?" she asked. "Why do you hide in boardrooms?" "Because people expect me to." "That's not an answer." He exhaled. "My father built everything I have. I've spent my life trying not to ruin it. That's all." For the first time, she saw past his arrogance. Beneath the tailored suit was a man who carried too much pressure. The thunder cracked again, and the lights flickered. Emma jumped. Ethan chuckled softly. "Scared?" "No," she said quickly. "You're shaking." "It's cold." He stood and found a blanket, draping it over her shoulders. The warmth of the gesture startled them both. "Thanks," she murmured. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them, too quick to name, too heavy to ignore. A phone buzz broke the moment. Ethan glanced at the screen. "Media inquiry, secret marriage confirmed?" He groaned. "It's starting again." "What is?" "The press. They won't leave us alone. Tomorrow's headlines will be a circus." "So, what do we do?" He looked at her seriously. "We act united. If we fight in public, they'll destroy both our reputations." Emma nodded slowly. "Fine. We'll pretend to be the perfect couple. For once, we agree." She gave a small laugh. "Don't get used to it." He smiled, genuine this time. "I won't." As the storm quieted outside, they remained in the dim kitchen, two strangers slowly lowering their walls. For the first time since their accidental marriage, silence between them wasn't uncomfortable, it was peaceful. Neither wanted to admit it yet, but the line between pretend and real had just begun to blur. The next morning began with chaos. Cameras flashed outside the mansion gates as reporters screamed questions through the rain-slicked air. "Ethan Blake. Is it true you secretly married a nurse?" "Emma. Are you after his fortune? Was this a PR stunt?" The noise was unbearable. Ethan stood near the window, jaw tight, watching from behind the glass. Emma came downstairs, coffee mug in hand, wearing one of his shirts. She stopped dead when she saw the crowd. "Oh my God," she whispered. "They found out." He turned sharply. "Yeah. The story broke overnight. Someone leaked our marriage certificate." She looked at him, panicked. "What do we do now?" "This is your world, not mine." He rubbed his temples. "Damage control. We give them a version of the truth that doesn't destroy both of us." Emma set the mug down. "Meaning?" "Meaning," he said, walking toward her, "we pretend to be madly in love. Just for a while." She blinked. "Pretend?" "Yes. We'll go public, act like it's a spontaneous romance. The media will eat it up. Then, when the heat dies down, we quietly file for annulment." She stared at him. "You're unbelievable. You want me to play your wife on camera?" "It's the best option we have. If we deny everything, they'll dig deeper. They'll find your hospital, your family, your past." Emma folded her arms. "So now you're threatening me?" "I'm protecting both of us," he said firmly. Silence hung in the air for a long moment. Rain pattered against the glass. Finally, she exhaled. Fine. I'll play your game. But only on one condition. His brow lifted. Name it. You treat me with respect. No orders. No arrogance. We do this my way too. Ethan nodded slowly. Agreed. She crossed her arms tighter. Then let's get this circus over with. By noon, their PR team had arranged a carefully staged interview in the mansion's living room. The space was transformed into a cozy, romantic set, soft lighting, flowers, warm tones, manufactured perfection. Emma sat beside Ethan on the cream sofa, nerves thrumming. A journalist from a major network smiled politely as the camera light blinked red. So, Mr. and Mrs. Blake, the woman began, congratulations on your surprise marriage. The world wants to know, how did it happen? Ethan smiled, the practiced businessman charm sliding easily into place. It wasn't planned. We met by chance at City Hall. I was there for business paperwork, she was filing a license for a hospital drive. There was a mix-up. Emma looked at him, wondering how convincingly he'd spin this. And yet, the journalist pressed, you decided to stay married? Emma leaned forward, finding her own voice. Sometimes the best things in life aren't planned. I didn't expect to meet someone like him. But, life surprises you. Her tone was soft, almost genuine. The reporter smiled. That's beautiful. Ethan glanced at her, slightly stunned. For someone who claimed to hate acting, she was good. The interview lasted 30 minutes. They held hands for the cameras, exchanged teasing smiles, and played their parts flawlessly. But beneath the performance, every brush of their fingers felt dangerously real. When the lights finally turned off, Emma pulled her hand away quickly. Well, she said, standing up, that was exhausting. You were amazing, Ethan admitted. She raised a brow. Flattery doesn't suit you. It wasn't flattery, he said. You handled that better than I ever could. She sighed. I just said what people wanted to hear. He smiled faintly. That's a skill most people in my world spend years learning. That evening, Ethan's PR manager insisted they attend a charity dinner downtown to cement their story. Emma wasn't thrilled, but she agreed. By the time she stepped out in a long emerald green gown, borrowed from the wardrobe team, Ethan froze mid-sentence. Wow, he said before catching himself. You clean up, surprisingly well. She smirked. Careful. That almost sounded like a compliment. They arrived at the event hand in hand, camera flashes blinding them at every step. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and expensive laughter. Every influential person in the city seemed to be there. Ethan Blake. Finally. A tall woman with diamond earrings approached, her smile too sharp. And this must be your new wife. Vanessa, Ethan greeted stiffly. Emma caught the tension instantly. Ex-girlfriend, maybe? Vanessa extended a manicured hand. It's such a surprise, Ethan. You never mentioned you were even seeing someone. Emma took her hand, smile polite. It was a whirlwind. Guess we didn't have time to call the press first. Vanessa's smile twitched. How romantic. As the night went on, Emma watched Ethan navigate the crowd, confident, charming, untouchable. Yet every time their eyes met, something unspoken lingered between them. Halfway through dinner, a photographer asked them to pose. Just a kiss on the cheek, Mr. Blake. For the magazine. Emma hesitated, heart racing. Ethan leaned closer, his breath brushing her skin. The crowd faded, the room went silent. Then, click. The flash went off. The kiss was over before it began, but the electricity it left behind felt impossible to ignore. Back home, Emma kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch. Do rich people always smile this much? My cheeks hurt. Ethan laughed, an actual laugh, the first she'd heard. You did great tonight. Don't get used to it, she muttered. He poured them both a glass of sparkling water. Vanessa shouldn't have spoken to you that way. She's my former business partner. Emma gave a small shrug. It's fine. I've dealt with worse at the hospital. At least she didn't throw a scalpel. He smiled. Still, I should have warned you. Next time, a little heads up would help. Their eyes met again. The air shifted. I meant what I said earlier, Ethan murmured. You were incredible out there. Emma rolled her eyes, trying to hide the flutter in her chest. Stop saying nice things. It's confusing. He grinned. Maybe I like confusing you. Then you're doing a great job, she said, standing up to leave. But before she reached the stairs, he spoke quietly. Emma. She turned. For what it's worth. I'm glad it was you. She froze, unsure how to respond. Part of her wanted to believe he meant it. The other part warned her not to. Good night, Ethan, she whispered and disappeared upstairs. The next morning, social media was on fire. Headlines screamed. Ethan Blake and wife steal the show at charity gala. A billionaire's whirlwind love story captivates millions. Emma Blake, the nurse who stole his heart. Emma scrolled through the articles at the kitchen counter, sipping coffee. This is insane, she muttered. Ethan walked in, holding his own phone. The PR team says our approval rating just jumped 20%. Approval rating? He smiled sheepishly. Old habit. Investors like when I seem human. She rolled her eyes. Glad I could be your emotional investment. He chuckled softly. You make it sound worse than it is. It is worse. My face is everywhere. I can't go back to the hospital without reporters waiting. He looked guilty. I'll make sure you're protected. She sighed, setting her cup down. This fake marriage of ours is turning into a full-time job. He hesitated. What if it doesn't have to stay fake? Her head shot up. What? He looked away quickly. Forget I said that. I just meant, we're handling this well together. Maybe we can. Don't, she said sharply. Don't confuse public performance with feelings. I'm not, he insisted softly. Yes, you are, she said, stepping closer. You live in a world where everything can be controlled, but love doesn't work like that. We're not in love, Ethan. We're surviving a situation. Her words hit him harder than expected. You're right, he murmured, eyes darkening. I just forgot for a second. She softened slightly. Ethan. I'm not trying to hurt you. But I can't be something I'm not. He nodded, forcing a smile. Of course. Strictly business. But the look in his eyes said otherwise. That afternoon, Emma's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Blake, said a low male voice. You don't know me, but I know something about your husband you might want to hear. Her blood ran cold. Who is this? Let's just say, someone who wants to help. Meet me tomorrow, 8 p.m., at the Old River Cafe. Come alone. The line went dead. Emma stood frozen, phone trembling in her hand. Ethan walked in moments later, oblivious to her panic. Everything all right? She forced a smile. Yeah, just a wrong number. But inside, her mind was racing. Who was that? What did they know about Ethan? And why did it feel like she was being pulled into something much bigger than a marriage of convenience? Outside, thunder rolled again in the distance, soft, warning, familiar. Emma looked toward the darkening sky, unaware that the next storm wouldn't be one she could simply walk through.